So, the Cleveland Abductions, the story of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina Dejesus. We're going to be starting off with, we're going to be going in order. So we're going to be starting off with Michelle Knight. We're going to be going on to Amanda Berry, and then Gina Dejesus, but also we'll be talking about the girls as a whole. So one thing I want to do very quickly is to do a very, very quick disclaimer. This is a true crime stream. No one is glorifying these crimes or criminals. This stream is for historical and educational reasons, and to remember the victims of these crimes, especially for these women. I do not mean to offend anyone with this stream. Any money donated during a true crime segment goes straight to charity to help people who have been through very similar situations. This stream may mention murder, violence, sexual assault, rape, and child abuse that some people may find upsetting and or triggering. This one in particular will also feature kidnapping, and it will also feature the forceful termination of unborn children as well. I just want to I have to put that out there, I'm afraid. I hate that I have to put this out there, but I have to. So make sure you got your snacks. If you can't eat anything during this, make sure you have your drinks because you're gonna need it. So I thought I would not be able to, I thought I was gonna do a whole thing where I wouldn't be drinking on stream. I wouldn't be drinking at all today because I was like, I don't know if I can be bothered. And then I read this and I was like, you know what? Well, I wrote all this down. So one thing we are going to do, we're going to have to pause the music for this because I will not lie to you. I don't think I could listen to joyful pop punk or metal music or anything that makes me kind of happy when I'm reading this because it is super, super fucking dark. I mean, I watch happy TV shows and movies from my childhood when I read and research all this. I feel like I have to. So, let's start it off. For today's True Crime Friday, we go into the abductions of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina Dejesus, all of who were kidnapped and held hostage by Ariel Castro for 9, 10, and 11 years. We will not be the first time going into the person who committed the crimes, but rather the 3 women who went through hell and survived their time in captivity, like I've already said. We will be going into their lives pre their abductions, what they all did in what they all individually went through, what they went through together, and their eventual freedom. So we're gonna start off with Michelle Knight. Michelle Knight, unfortunately, has one of them such a horrific background. I cannot say this enough. It is horrible, and oh my god. So, Michelle Knight was the eldest of the 3 girls who were kidnapped by Ariel Castro. She was 21 years old when she was abducted on the 23rd of August 2002 in Cleveland, Ohio. She was also noted as his least favorite of all the 3 girls, but that basically meant that she just get like a few more beatings than them. He just really resented her. The reason why he mostly resented her, can my neighbors not? The reason why he mostly resented her was because she was older than he wanted. Because he thought she was younger, because she was like incredibly tiny. So she was like, by the time she was 21, she was about 4'7" in height. Like that was her tallest. And he thought she was like a lot younger, and he was apparently angered by this. He wanted her to be older, which is messed up on every single level. She was born on the 23rd of April, 1981. She pretty much grew up in poverty her entire life. Her family once lived in a station wagon for over a year. This featured herself, her parents, her cousin, and her twin brothers. They moved all over. They barely ever really showered because they couldn't really get the chance to, or they couldn't afford it. They didn't manage to have any hygiene, such as like brushing the teeth, etc. And she said whenever they would actually get the chance to, she'd always make sure her brothers got clean and had all these things before she ever did, because she didn't know when they'd next be able to get any of this. What's your favourite serial killer documentary? Parker, hi. I wouldn't necessarily say documentary. I'd definitely say adaptation, which is Des. Right now it's Des. That features David Tennant, who plays Dennis Nielsen. Absolutely incredible. If you've not watched it, give it a watch. It's on ITV if you want to watch it, and he plays the part way too perfectly. So yeah, she wasn't allowed a childhood basically at all. She did not have a childhood in the slightest. Like, this girl had to be an adult from the get-go. She took care of all of her siblings and all the other children in the family. The parents weren't really ever capable of doing any of this. They did eventually move into an actual home, but every single home that they ever moved into, because they were still moving around so much, was always in terrible neighborhoods. So it was like constant violence and drug dealers, gangs, like literally everywhere. Oh my god, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much. We're going to donate all of these at the end of the stream. Do not worry, all of these are getting donated. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we take a note of all of these so we can get all of these donated. So, yeah, that was so weird because that's the first donation we've ever had on the stream, and it was so weird to hear that music being played. I was just like, wait, what does this one mean again? It made me jump too. I was like, I don't recognize this one. But thank you so much for the donation. That is definitely going to charity at the end of the stream. Do not worry. And to be fair, I'm going to show you me doing this as well. So they eventually did get home. It was just in terrible neighborhoods constantly. Did you watch the Zodiac with Iman? I've actually not watched that. I mean, I was hoping it was gonna read the message I wrote in it. I probably didn't see it quick enough. But thank you, Myro, so much. Oh god, you're lucky. Gay Bomb Simp is not here right now because remember, they do not like you. But thank you so much. So they got up the home. I don't see it. So they got the home, but unfortunately, like I said, trigger warning. Please remember, huge trigger warning. A male family member joined the household. Oh my god. That's so dark. That's so dark, but oh my god. We'll allow it. Even though it's probably not tasteful right now. So, a male family member joined in the household and began sexually abusing her. Wait, is this the Manson family? No, this is the Cleveland Abductions. Amanda Berry, Gina Dejesus, and Michelle Knight. Manson family was weeks ago. So, this male family member that unfortunately came into the house started sexually abusing her when she was only 5 years old. She was also bullied at school for being really small and also being insanely poor. Like I said, when she got older, she was 5'7" at her tallest. When she was 15 years old, she was done. Like, she was just done. She wanted out, like, now. No worries. So yeah, she was 15 years old. When she turned 15, she was just done. This male family member literally abused her until she was 15, and she had just had enough. So she ran away from home, and she slept in a bin under an underpass, and she referred to this as better than her home life. Like, she was so tiny, she could just curl up in a ball and go into this bin, and she could just not be seen. At one point, when she was under this underpass, she said that a tall black man approached her, and she said she was really protective of herself because of her past with men. Naturally, you would be at this point. He turned out to be a pastor at a local church, and he said that he was worried about her and offered her meals at the church. She went weekly, and she started to make friends with the people there, and said it was the best time of her life going to that church, which is so wholesome for everything that she went through. It's absolutely horrific. This entire story is absolutely horrific. One day, she was still sleeping where she was under the underpass, and a man who called himself Sniper approached her and said that he sees that she's homeless and that he wants to help her. Now, I will say Sniper is a good dude. He brings into a situation that most would say is not great, but it's also not exactly bad at the same time. Like, she's safe, she's got a roof over her head, and he's helping her out. He never abused her. Let's put this out there. Sniper was a fucking angel to her. He never abused her. He treated her with respect, like you should be doing anyway. And he made sure that she had everything that he needed. Would you rather be killed by a serial killer or something daily like real accident or heart attack? Probably road accident or a heart attack. I wouldn't want a brutal murder. So he was very nice, and so the only thing that she had to do, basically, he would give her a room where he lived, but the only thing that she would have to do for him is to be a drug runner, which isn't the best thing in the world when you're 15 years old, but it's definitely probably better than being sexually abused for 10 years by a male family member. He was, like I said, he was very nice. He protected her. He never abused her at all, and he gave her a gun actually to protect herself with. I guess it was just more of like his nickname, considering he was like working with drugs and stuff like that. I'm guessing that's the reason why. But yeah, he took care of her. Exactly, Scarlett. He took care of her and gave her a gun to protect herself with. He introduced her to a boy who was a couple of years older than she was, called Roderick. He became her best friend, and both Sniper and Roderick took care of her, and she loved that time in her life. Like, they made sure she was okay, like always. They made sure she had food. They made sure she was warm. They made sure that she was completely safe at all times, which, oh my god, these guys. He was paying her as well, so she was also getting money through doing this. Now, unfortunately, the police did raid the house, and she ran straight back under that underpass where she was before she met Sniper. Now, when she went under this underpass, a neighbour of hers from when she lived with her parents noticed her there and told her father, and he came and picked her up and took her back home. Hey Bryce, hey, I don't know if this is true crime, but have you ever seen or heard of these screamers? I have not. If you want, you can join our Discord, and if you want me, you can join our Discord, and there's a true crime channel on there if you want to discuss anything like this. No, Parker, I have not. Literally, if anyone wants to recommend anything, Discord, just request for the Discord to be put in by the bot in the chat, and you get the link straight away to go to the Discord where you can talk about this stuff. And we can definitely talk about this more. This would be awesome. So, yeah, her father came, picked her up, and took her right back to her old home, back into hell. And straight away, that same night she got taken back there, the male family member found it hilarious. Thank you, Bryce, so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to point out, do not have COVID. My mouth gets very dry when I do these. So that same night, yeah, the male family member, well, male family friend that was abusing her beforehand, told her that he found it hilarious that she thought that she could get away, and once again, he abused her that night. About a year or two later, she got pregnant by her first boyfriend, so she was about 17 at this time, and sadly he cheated on her, and it was a whole like who's he gonna pick kind of thing, and he ended up picking the other girl that he was cheating on her with, despite the fact that she was pregnant with his child, and yeah, just left her straight up. She gave birth to her son Joey on the 24th of October 1999, and she said that when she was pregnant, her abuser tried to carry on with the abuse, but she fought back. Basically, she was like, no, I'm pregnant, I'm making sure my child gets through this, we're going to get out of here, and we're going to live our lives away from you. She was so sick of his shit, and he backed off, like, straight up. So she refers to Joey as her gift. She wanted to have a good life and make sure that he had a good life too, and her mother then divorced her father and started dating a man called Carlos, who was really no better than her father and was actually also extremely abusive, not necessarily in a sexual way to her, but he was just an arsehole. Michelle, who is now 19, and Joey is 2 years old, she's wanting to get Joey out of this situation, and she's job hunting relentlessly because she had to leave school, which was making this entire thing a lot harder. When Joey was 2, Michelle left him with her mum for the day while she went out job hunting, except her mum ended up leaving Joey with Carlos, and when Carlos was a massive drunk. And when she came back home, Joey was very upset, and this pissed Carlos off. And he ended up grabbing Joey by the leg and fracturing his leg. Do you do a live? I did a live about Joseph Fritzl. Yes, I did. That was a while ago, actually. We could revisit that one day. But yeah, that was a while ago. We did, I think I've got that. I think that is on YouTube. I think I uploaded that one to YouTube. So it is on there. And the link is down below. You want to check that out. Like I said, most of these true crime segments get uploaded to YouTube. If you ever want to rewatch them, they're all there. So she takes Joey to the hospital, and the doctors obviously ask what happened, and she told them that he hurt his leg at the park. Now, she lied because she was scared, not only just scared of Carlos, but she was also scared of getting Joey taken away, because she is trying so hard right now to try and get him and herself out of this situation and to get them a better lives. And as she was trying to leave, Carlos called the hospital and told them that he caused the accident because he was drunk. What's your YouTube? The YouTube, it should be down below. Hopefully it shouldn't. It should be down below. Okay, you got it? Sweet. She obviously wanted to get... So obviously because of this, the hospital called social services and Joey got taken into foster care. Now, she wanted to get Joey back, obviously straight away, and ended up getting a court hearing, but because she couldn't get there by car, public transport, because she literally had no money, she ended up walking 3 hours just to get to this hearing. Now, she was 15 minutes late, and they basically just screamed at her and wouldn't allow this hearing. And in 2002, she was in the process of getting Joey back. So it was going well. It was working out. She had moved out of that house and she had moved in with her cousin Lisa, who was helping her get back on her feet. Lisa also introduced her to a few friends, which were all very, very nice people. One of them being a woman called Deanna. And Deanna introduced Michelle to a friend of hers called Ariel Castro. Now, this is something that I really need to add because there's always this thing with, like, how did grown women or grown teenagers get into a car with a man that they didn't know? We need to point out that they all knew who he was because they were all in some ways friends or they were friends or very, very familiar with Ariel Castro, his daughters, and the family. So they knew who he was. So Michelle said that she liked Emily from the get-go, said she was a very nice girl, and Emily said her parents were divorced, and she talks about her father, who is called Ariel. She even showed Michelle a few pictures of him, and Michelle even spoke on the phone to Ariel with Emily a few times, because this is just her friend's dad. This is nothing weird. Emily told Michelle that her dad was an elementary school bus driver, which is true, which makes all of this even more sickening. Joey at this point is now going to different towns in different foster homes, and she needs to go to each meeting when he gets moved, and she gets supervised visits at this point. On the 23rd of August 2002 at 2:30 p.m, she had to go for a hearing to get Joey back, so she needs to be at this hearing at 2:30 p.m. And she had no idea what this place was. She had never been there before. She had no clue. A family member was meant to drive her there, but bailed on the last minute. And social services had offered her a lift originally, but at this point, when they offered her the lift, the family member was going to drive her. So Michelle was like, no, it's fine. I've got someone to take me. Don't worry about it. She did call social services to say, I am going to be late. I'm trying to get there, but my lift cancelled last minute. I'm trying to get there. I will get there. And they screamed her again and just were like, we offered you a ride. Then it's your own fault. Get here, otherwise you're not getting Joey back. Deanna was helping her, was wandering around with her too to help find this place. Deanna didn't drive, so this made it a lot harder. She sent her home saying that, and Michelle sent Deanna home saying that, oh, she'll be fine, that she'll find it. And she looked around and she couldn't find it at all. And it was reaching 2 p.m. at this point, and she was starting to panic. She manages to get hold of social services, and yeah, like I said, they just told her that she could have accepted the lift that they offered. So she then goes into a corner shop to ask for directions, and She got an answer from the lady at the checkout, and they said that she should probably just go down the road and turn left and a couple more lefts, and that she thinks that that's where she needs to go. However, but a man approached her in the corner shop named Ariel Castro, and he said that he knew exactly where the place was. And naturally, when Michelle looked at him, she recognized him as Emily's dad. So she agrees for Ariel to drop her off at this place. How do you prefer to do this, wiki or the podcast? I read a lot of different articles. I read a few things. If there's a book about it, I'll read a few things from there. Or throughout the entire week, I'll just watch documentaries and listen to podcasts throughout the day, pretty much, yeah. I'll just, while I'm listening to these podcasts, I'll take notes, I'll write stuff down, and I'll bundle it all together. So yeah, she recognized him as Emily's dad and agrees to Castro dropping her off there. Also, I want to add, I remember watching documentaries on this case when this all happened, when this all came out, so I already was kind of familiar with it. So when they got into the car, she said that it was messy as hell, it was straight up disgusting, it was like wrappers everywhere, old rotten food, and all, it was vile. They start driving, and she notices that he takes a wrong turn, and she says how the cashier said that it was the complete other way. And he says that he needs to head home really quickly, and she said that how she'll be late, she's already late already, and how she's trying to get some back. And he explains that his dog had puppies a couple of days ago, and he just needs to check on them really quick. Now this piques her interest because Joey loves puppies, and he gets really, really giddy whenever he sees a puppy, so she brings that up. Ariel says that she can take one of the puppies to Joey and give it to him when she gets him back. So she agrees. She's like, "Oh, this would be really cool. It can show that I can take care of Joey and all this kind of stuff, and it'll help and everything." So they pull up at his home on Seymour Avenue. I don't mind some of the Netflix documentaries. I think that they don't really do much, but yeah, I do watch quite a few of them, to be fair. So, like I said, they pull up at the home at Seymour Avenue, and the house is a fair size. It's 2 floors with a basement. And it's white with a fence going around it and a porch. Now, there's also a chow dog chained up in the garden, and when Michelle asks why the mum is outside chained up in the garden if the puppies are inside, Ariel casually says it's because she needs to go to the bathroom as he was leaving earlier on. So they go inside the house, and Michelle is noted on saying that the entire place is disgusting and it's just messy. It stunk of piss and had rotting stuff everywhere, rotten food, all this kind of stuff. And the place was practically black since he barely let light in, and it was just disgusting. He took her upstairs to where the puppies were and took her into a pink room when she said she wasn't uncomfortable with going in there, she can't see the puppies. He said, "Oh, the puppies are in the bedroom and they're in a box." So she goes into the bedroom and there were no puppies. And within seconds, she hears the bedroom door slam shut, and Ariel's got his hand over her mouth and says to her, "If you scream, I'll kill you." So now we're going into her time in captivity, and I cannot fully say this enough. Trigger warning. Huge trigger warning for this. Anything after this. This is uncomfortable. So I need to tell you this now. He tied her ankles together. He tied rope around her entire body and her wrists behind her back, and then attached her with the rope to the ceiling, suspended in the air. He put a dirty old sock in her mouth and duct taped her entire head to make sure it stayed in place. Now, before leaving the room, he blasted the radio at the highest volume it could possibly go and left her there for more than a day and a night to apparently go and get food. When he eventually came back, he tried to force feed her rotten McDonald's, and this happened a lot over the next 10 years. He constantly only fed Michelle and the other girls just rotten food. So when she wouldn't eat, because obviously she was scared, like anything could be in this. He untied her and threw her onto the mattress and raped her. After this, he started to cry and tried to explain that he had a bad childhood and was also molested as a child, but this girl has literally been through the same shit. You cannot say to this girl, I've been through this, when she has been through the exact same thing as you, and she could not imagine doing this to another human being in the slightest. He also said how he was addicted to porn. It was like, just go fucking watch some. She started talking to him eventually and tried to soften him up a bit. Now, this is just obviously to protect herself, but this made him flip out. Is she still alive and being saved? Yes, she is still alive. Do not worry. This has a happy ending. It has a happy ending. This is another thing I need to say. This entire thing has a very happy ending. Do not worry. All girls now in 2021 are all alive. They're all safe and they are no longer in this situation. This is a thing I can 100% say. We're just talking about what they went through because this does lead up to like what they do now. Do Europe have serial killers or the US better sell them to public? We have serial killers, yes. Yeah, Europe has quite a lot of them. So she started talking, so he flipped out. Even more so when he found out that she was 21. And because he wanted her to be younger. And he thought she was a lot younger than he expected. So he then dragged her out of this room and drags her down to the basement, and she said that she instantly knew that nothing good happens in basements from watching horror movies. Some bullcrap, honestly. Don't try to use trauma as a reason for being a shitty person. Absolutely correct. So she said it was gross, full of dirty clothes, rotting food, and porn. He took 2 long rusty chains and pushed her against a post and wrapped the chains around her constantly until they were done. He told her he wanted to make sure that she couldn't make any sounds, so he put a motorbike helmet on her head, which is where she barely got any oxygen, and she said that she just immediately passed out, and she kept waking up and passing out, waking up and passing out, like literally on a continuous cycle. She did get her hands untied and got her helmet off, but he came back and she put the helmet back on. And so she managed to get her hand untied and she took the helmet off. But when he came back, she put the helmet back on and put her hands behind her back to make it seem like she wasn't trying to escape, because obviously she was going to go for it. He saw this and said that she now had to be punished. Now, even in her book, she can't describe what he did to her. There's a few times where she struggles to even write down what he did. And don't worry, there's a lot of things that happen to the girls I'm not going to go into extreme detail with, because I feel like if you want to know that, then you can read the book yourself, because some of it is just too much for even me to say. But it was along the lines, basically, of waving a pipe in front of her, saying he will shove it down her throat. He then left her in the dark for days. She obviously got no food, got no water, none of that. Eventually, he got into a routine, so every morning he would leave to get McDonald's, try and shove it down her throat, go to work, come back, violently rape her, do it all over again. He would tell her that no one was looking for her, like, constantly. She probably has blocked it out due to trauma. Was it in the UK? No, it's in Cleveland in the US. So, yeah, he told her no one else was looking for her, and she wasn't in the news, and no one gives a shit about where she is. Now, the thing is, this is actually kind of true. She wasn't on the news. Now, the reason why... I've not really watched a lot of Mindhunter, but I really need to give it a go. I'm not doing anything tomorrow, so I might do it then. I watched a lot of my documentaries. I listened to a lot of my podcasts. Watching it kind of just makes me feel a bit eerie, but I'll listen to a podcast about it. It's weird. It's weird, I know. I'll watch some documentaries, but then it takes a lot. So, yeah, she wasn't on the news. Her family reported her missing. However, they also mentioned it to the police that obviously she has run away before. And the police, after about a week or two, just dropped the case and he went cold and they stopped looking for her. So she was never on the news because her family just did not care. They didn't put any effort into trying to find her. They say years later, when obviously when she's free, that they did try, but they just didn't. And there's so much evidence that they just did not try. And they're like, oh, we're hurt that she doesn't want to talk to us. There's a reason why she doesn't want to fucking talk to you. Hey, Milk! Ooh, Parker, I'll have to give it a go then. Fine, we're just talking about true crime, as per usual. So, on some levels, obviously she believed him due to her childhood background, but she was also convinced that her friend would say something about not seeing her, so she was hoping Deanna would say something. He then started having people over. This included his band, which came around every Saturday, and she just kept quiet because she was worried that these people weren't nice people and they would just do the same thing back to her. She talks a lot in her books about thinking about her son Joey and how she would pretend that he was always like sat in front of her and that she would just talk to him. And that was kind of like the whole coping mechanism of things. So yeah, Joey was the only thing that was keeping her going during this entire time, really. Eventually, he did bring her out of the basement, and she started to lose track of days, going based of when. So the only way she could even keep track. Oh, love you too, Milk. The only way she would keep track of days in any kind of way was based on when he would go to work and when the band was over, all this kind of stuff. He then chained her to a radiator, which was never on a filthy mattress, and he would rape her multiple times a day and then would spend the rest of the day lay there talking to her, which was a massive mindfuck. Now, he told her, this is another disturbing thing, he told her he loved little blonde girls and even said he wishes he would have gotten to that Joan Benet Ramsey and Elizabeth Smart, since obviously their cases were fucking huge. Hey, Jobber, how you doing? No, his friends and family had no clue because he made sure that they were too scared to even do anything or say anything, so his friends had no idea. He would mention how she was clearly bored as well and got her a radio, which then switched to a TV eventually for her to watch in the pink room. One day, months later, he told her he would let her go when he got two other girls, which she hated the idea of. But she also hoped that if he was trying to do this, he would get caught while trying. Now, the thing is, when he brings the other girls in, he would, like, when he brings Amanda in, he says, oh, when I get one more girl, I'll let you go. And when he says, and it's clearly just a lie to try and give them some hope. She started a plan to make him trust her, and he would do things to her. He would do things where he would leave the room and come back in 2 seconds later to see if she would move, and she noticed that he was doing this, so whenever he'd leave the room for a couple of seconds and do this whole trick, she would make sure she stayed perfectly still. Eventually, so he showed her to his friends that he kept her in the basement or upstairs in the pink room, and she was never really allowed out to see anyone. So they had no clue that she even existed. Eventually, she said how he would give her a puppy to give. So eventually she said to him, "Oh, you said to me when we first met that you would give me a puppy to give to Joey when I got him back, and you never did that. You never kept your word. You said you'd do this. How am I meant to trust? You're meant to trust me, but I think I should be able to trust you." So he got her a puppy. He got her a little pit bull puppy that she named Lobo, because she said that she named the puppy Lobo because of how low the puppy was to the ground, which is really cute. The bond between Michelle and Lobo obviously got really strong. When Ariel would rape her, he would take the dog outside to go to the toilet, and then he'd go back inside, rape her, so when the dog wasn't around. Basically just in case the dog attacked him, which does happen. So one day he was really, really drunk and he forgot to take the dog out. and he went to the pink room and went to attack Michelle, but because of obviously her bond with the puppy went berserk and tried to attack Ariel for even going near Michelle. And I'm so sorry about this next bit. He picked up the puppy and snapped its neck and threw it on the mattress in front of her. And she said she just started sobbing and screaming. And when she had the dog, she talked about how she would talk to the dog about how they would get out of there together and they would they'd get Joey and they'd have that life together. You do try and Crime Friday. What do you do during the other days of the week? It depends what I'm in the mood for. So we'll play different games. We'll just chill some days. We'll draw some tattoo designs up. We'll do some drawings, do some artwork. It really depends on what we're in the mood for, or what I'm in the mood for. It's a massive variety. So games, it depends. We were playing Mario Kart. We played Legend of Zelda yesterday. The Entitled Goose Game the other day. It depends, really. Sometimes Minecraft. But when the dog died, she said that she would just speak to what would be like the spirit of the dog and say that she hopes that she will join him on the other side too. So she just started to lose hope. Why didn't she attack him in defense? So the reason why she wouldn't have been able to attack him in defense is because she's been there for weeks at this point. She is weak. She's had no food. She's had no water. She's being beaten repeatedly and raped repeatedly. Like, the energy is just not there. And he's a lot stronger than her because he's not getting all this kind of abuse on the daily basis. So because of what she's going through, she's going to be so much more weaker than him. So it's going to make it incredibly hard for her to even try. So one day, he says that he's taken her outside. This is 8 months after she's been kidnapped. So he brings her downstairs and gives her some old dirty clothes to wear instead of her own. So she's still 8 months later, she's still wearing the clothes that she wore when he kidnapped her. And a wig and some glasses. This also means that she's not had a shower in 8 months. So he gives her the wig and glasses even though he says that she's not being looked for, so whatever. He brings her to the back garden and gets her to help him with some things, and a neighbour was also outside, but she was too scared to scream at the time. She's broken at this point. She's broken mentally, physically, the whole thing. She doesn't know what to do. She's terrified. After that, he brought her back into the house and told her to strip down, and for the next 4 months, she was just naked. He didn't give her any clothes, so she was naked for 4 months and still hadn't had a shower. Would you rather tattoo your armpits or around your ankles? Ooh, ankles. I'm actually weirdly better with bone areas. That's the fear of how much worse it would get if I tried to do option A, B, or C. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she does not have energy. Yeah, she has literally none at this point. So then we're going on to the 21st of April 2003, which is the day that Amanda Berry goes missing. So Amanda Marie Berry was born on the 22nd of April 1986, and she disappears on the 21st of April 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. Amanda worked at a Burger King on Lorraine Avenue in Cleveland, and which was around the area that Michelle actually went missing. She said she almost called out of work that day, because it was her birthday, and regretted not doing this. Obviously later on. So she was walking home from work. Her boyfriend DJ was meant to pick her up, but he just didn't that day for some unknown reason. She passed a maroon van and noticed a man and a girl in the van. She thought she recognized the girl and waved at her and carried on walking. Then Ariel followed her in the van, because obviously Ariel was in the van too. He stopped next to her and asked if she wanted a lift. Now she looked in, she didn't see the girl anymore, he says that his daughter Emily is at his house, and he wanted to see if she wanted to see her for a bit. Which she agreed to, because Amanda knows Emily. She knows his daughter. He's using his daughters to get these girls. So he wouldn't leave it for 21 days. He would leave it just short of the time. So he would give them food and water eventually, but it would not be for... He'd give them food and water eventually, but it would never get to the point where it would reach 21 days. So it'd be like tiny little things here or there. So he'd make sure they can survive to go through the abuse, but also make sure they are still weak so they can't fight back. That makes sense? So they go, so she gets into the van, she goes back to his house, and she had a phone out, and he asked her if he could borrow it for a quick second because he needed to call someone. Now she agrees and gives him the phone, and he says he's going to untangle the chains attached to his dog. So he gets out of the car, and he still has her phone. God, I hope this dude dies in jail if he ain't already dead. Okay, another positive. He is dead. He died, he killed himself in prison. So... positive! Yeah, he did. So yeah, he still has her phone, and he says that he's going, so he... Also, small amounts every day for a few days, probably not. Yeah, so it'd be like bits here or there, which would not help anything at all. So she waits in the car until he comes back and says Emily is in the bath and she can come and wait inside. So he decides to give her a tour of this absolutely disgusting house in the meantime, and even shows her a room where a girl is on a mattress watching a TV. Now, this is obviously Michelle, and Michelle has her chains hidden, so Amanda can't see them. So Amanda sees this girl on a mattress in dirty clothes and watching a TV, and is like really confused, like, why is this girl here? Who is she? Why is she dirty? Why is she watching this really crappy TV? So then he takes her into another room to show her again around the house, and then he shuts the door behind him and demands that she takes her pants down. Obviously, Emily is not in the house. He lied, obviously. He then raped her and took her down to the basement and did the exact same thing to her what he did to Michelle. He said if she keeps quiet, then she can go. He also took the TV from Michelle and gave it to Amanda so she can watch her parents plead for her safe return, which was torture for her. But also gave her hope hearing her mother say that she'll fight to get her daughter back. So it gave her some kind of boost, but also not enough. Can I ask you a question out of the true crime theme? Yeah, go for it. Depends on what it is, but go for it. So she said on the 4th day he moved her upstairs but kept her away from Michelle. A week later, he took her phone that he'd taken away and he rang her family. He told her how did the police get him? We'll get to that, don't worry. So he rang her family and told her family he had Mandy and she wanted to be with him. Now, Mandy is a nickname that only her parents and friends really gave her. So he did that to kind of be like, oh, she wants to stay with me. Now, the FBI traced the call, but because it was really early days in this kind of technology, they managed to get 2 blocks away from where she was, but could only track her with the phone on. And naturally, the phone died, and he turned the phone off. He asked Amanda if she wanted something from the shop when he went out one day, and she asked for a journal to jot down, and she jotted down everything in detail. Now, she wrote numbers at the tops of the pages, and the numbers represented how many times he would rape her that day, which is horrific. She was allowed showers, but they always had to be done with him. And she would basically, when this would happen, she would try and put herself into a different place. So she would try and mentally go somewhere else whenever this happened. And he told, like I said, I've said this before, he told her that he would let her go when he got one more girl. Control freak much as well, yeah. Soon after Amanda came into the home, Michelle got pregnant, which happens quite a few times. He would always punch and kick her stomach with a barbell to cause a miscarriage, and then would beat her again for aborting his child. at this point, she's missing her own child, Joey, and then she gets pregnant, so she didn't care that it was his child, so she didn't really care that it was his child when she got pregnant. She was more like, I want this baby. I need something. But obviously he would never let her. Now, during this, he was also dating a woman. So during this, he was dating someone. And she would come over to the house, but she wasn't allowed upstairs. And sometimes she could hear Michelle's TV from upstairs and would bring it up. And he would just come up with a weird excuse to try and hide it. And this weird that she believed it. They did actually break up in October 2003. Now, are you a geek, as do you love Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit? Yes. Yes. The moment when none of my Harry Potter stuff is directly in front of me. The hell. But yes, especially Harry Potter. Harry Potter, my favourite. The time when nothing Harry Potter is right in front of me. Oh, wait. I mean, yeah, there you go. In July, Amanda's mother was obviously on this case. She wanted to know where her daughter was. She was all over the news and demanded to know what happened to her daughter. She wanted to know. She wanted to find her child. So she never gave up hope on her daughter being alive. She was on TV shows, talk shows, and hosting vigils, all sorts of stuff. He would show Amanda all of this. And also show them to Michelle. But he'd only show them to Michelle to basically be like, see, no one's looking for you. They're looking for her. They don't care about you. And she thought at one point how no one was looking for her and how no one cared about her. It was just sending her into a massive low. In January 2004, the police arrive at the house because they were investigating him on counts of child abduction and child endangerment. But this was not related to the girls. This was from when before and after school program at the school that he was working for, because remember he's a school bus driver, he had 2 kids in his bus and he dropped one of the kids off and kept the other one in the car. Now this child is about 4 or 5. This should be a podcast. Maybe one day. He drove the child around for hours, telling the kids basically shut up and to basically lie down on the floor. He didn't do anything to the kid, I want to clarify as well. Now, naturally the kid was terrified. Now he stopped at a Wendy's to get food, and he left the child inside the bus for even longer, so this went on for hours. No security cameras. Oh, don't worry, he got in trouble for this. Now eventually he took the kid back to the school. Naturally the kid told the parents, and the parents reported it to the school, who called the police. But the school only gave him a 90-day suspension without pay. The police knocked on the door of his home and he didn't answer the door, so they left. They just left. Now this happens. I skip ads on your podcast. Do you mind? If you can skip the ads, then you can skip the ads. I can't control you. The ads are there, unfortunately. The school or odd action seen by his neighbours. The school reported him to the police. Because of obviously the whole kid in the school bus thing. The neighbours reported to the police a few times because the neighbours spot weird things happening with the house. So basically they'd either see a kid, they'd either see Amanda or Michelle. They mostly would see Michelle because they don't recognise Michelle because Michelle's not on TV. They'd see her in like a window, or they'd see her in the back garden when she'd be like naked and chained up sometimes. And they would report it to the police, but by the time the police would get there, she would be... Oh, okay, fair. So by the time the police would get there, he would hide her away, and he wouldn't answer the door. So every single time the police knocked on the door, he wouldn't answer, and they would just go away. So if he wouldn't answer the door, he would just leave. Well, the police would just ignore it, and just be like, oh, okay, not our problem then. Which is fucked up. Now, the 2nd of April 2004, Gina Dejesus goes missing. So, Georgina Lynn Dejesus was born on the 13th of February 1990 and went missing at the age of 14 on the 2nd of April 2004. She was last seen at a payphone around 3 p.m. While on the way home, so this was on the way while she was on her way home from her middle school at West 105th Street at Lorraine Avenue. At the time, she was friends with Ariel Castro's daughter, Arlene Castro. Now, shortly before Gina disappeared, she herself and Arlene had called Arlene's mother from the payphone to ask for permission to have a sleepover at Gina's house. But her mother said that they couldn't because Arlene was currently grounded, so Arlene needed to come home. The girls went their separate ways and walked home. Ariel Castro then pulled up next to Gina and asked her if she had seen Arlene. When Gina said yes, I just left her. She went that way. He asked, could you show me where she is? I don't know where she'll be. So Gina's like, yeah, no problem, and got into the car. Bear in mind, another thing to add is that Ariel is not only just Arlene's dad, which is Gina's friend's dad. Ariel is also a really close friend of Gina's father. So he was really good friends with her father in high school. So he's a family friend. So Gina knows who he is a lot more than Michelle or Amanda even did. So her trust in him is quite strong at this point. Wouldn't the police break into their house and check all the rooms? You know, you'd think they would. You'd think they would. You'd hope they would. So yeah, she was comfortable getting into the car. When he got her in the house, he brought her upstairs and brought her to the bathroom, and basically, he literally went straight upstairs, bathroom, and went, show me your privates. Straight up. Now, immediately she tried to leave. She said, okay, but, so she tried to, be like, oh, I'm just going to try and be smart and get out of here. So she was like, okay, but you have to leave. And he said, okay, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, this was out of order. You can leave. You can go. And he said, okay, just let me take you out a different way. So instead of he said he was going to take her out the back, but instead he led her down to the basement, where he repeated the same thing that he did to Michelle and Amanda to her. Now, Michelle said that she could hear Gina screaming for help the entire time. Have undercover car service 2 days. See, all these things are very good suggestions, and they really should have just done that. At 3:45 p.m, Gina's mum was wondering where her daughter was. She checked the place she usually went, like to hang out. She asked her friends, and by 9:49 p.m, she reported Gina as missing. She noted to the police how Gina has the mental age of a 9-year-old and how she was last seen by Arlene Castro. That Saturday morning, roadblocks were put up, flyers of Gina were everywhere, and police dogs were out. They brought people in for questioning, the neighbours and her uncle included, but also Ariel Castro's ex-wife's new husband was the main subject. I wonder who reported that. Because that was put in through by an anonymous tip, by the way. An anonymous tip said that his ex-wife's new husband was like the person that possibly did it. Amanda's boyfriend DJ was also constantly stalked by reporters too, throughout the entire 10 years. A flyer of Gina was also placed outside of Ariel Castro's house, and he took part in the search party for Gina because his friend, Gina's dad, asked him if he could help out. Even though he has Gina literally chained to a pole in the basement, and he was raping her every single day. The FBI got involved, and this is when he started to panic because they got involved again. He actually wrote a confession letter, so because he was prepared to kill himself if he needed to, if he got caught. Well, that aged well, because he does. So he was constantly telling the girls that he was sick, and that's why he was doing all these things, because he was sexually abused as a kid, which is obviously no excuse, because what the fuck? There's a lot of people who go through all that and they don't do this shit. There's a lot of people who go through that and live normal lives. He blamed the 3 girls for their own kidnappings because they got into his car, even though they fucking knew him. Gina's parents, Nancy and Felix, were not sleeping at all. They were constantly fighting to know what happened to their daughter and where she was. They had a command center at their house, flyers up, the whole thing. One day, Ariel even came around to their house and hugged them, saying how he felt so sorry for them, and offered to even hand out flyers. Everyone in the area was terrified. A curfew was set up. People were not letting their kids go out. People were not letting their kids go on buses. This whole thing. And yeah, when Gina was 15 years old, someone gave an anonymous tip that Ariel's ex-wife's new husband was the kidnapper. He was picked up that morning. He was questioned, given a lie detector test, which he passed. And when being driven home by the FBI, he told the FBI agent, He said later on, I told the FBI agent to investigate Ariel Castro. He knows her family too well, and only he would make this kind of accusation about me. But they ignored this. It wasn't until Gina was in the house for 2 weeks before she met Michelle. It wasn't until Michelle. So Gina was in the house for 2 weeks before she met Michelle. Michelle had met Amanda once before for like a brief moment, but that was really it for a while. He even starts calling Amanda his wife. Ariel brought Gina in to Michelle's room and told Michelle that Gina was his daughter, which Michelle knew that wasn't true. Like, she's got the TV in her room, she's been watching the news, she knows who Gina is. He stuffed them in a bathroom together and told Gina to do Michelle's hair, which she started doing. She started doing like twists and braids and stuff like that on her hair. He left them alone to go into the kitchen, and Michelle said to her, with that brief moment that she had with her, "Don't let him know I know, but I know who you are. I know you're not his daughter. I know you're Gina Dejesus, and I am gonna help. And when I can get the chance to speak to you more, I'm gonna show you how to survive him." So she took Gina in instantly. She couldn't get close to Michelle. Michelle couldn't get close to Amanda, so it made it a bit difficult for that. Michelle loved the hair that Gina did on her and thanked her, which pissed off Ariel for some unknown fucking reason. He put Gina in a different room and hung the missing photo in the room so she would have to look at it when she was chained up. Eventually, Gina got brought into the room with Michelle, and he chained them together on the mattress, and they instantly bonded from being with each other for so long. They only had a little bucket to do their business in, and quite often it would overflow because he would never clean it or take it out, which obviously made them incredibly sick so often. When he would come in to rape one of them, he would do this several times a day. And when this would happen, they would hold hands and be there for each other and try and just be protective of one another. One instance, he came in to attack. So quite a few times when he would come in to attack Gina, Michelle would jump in front of Gina and be like, try and make him attack her instead, so she would get all the abuse instead of Gina. He gave all the girls journals too, and Amanda was the one who kind of kept the more detailed records. She had like a few different journals. So she had a blue one that had the most detailed events of her sexual assaults. She had another one that she called Miss Shady Items, which was a book full of drawings and designs and stuff like that. And then the last one was a black journal where she would write letters to her mother. Sorry, drink again. He started calling Amanda his wife, like I said he would. And he would take Gina and Michelle outside to rape them to keep Amanda from seeing this or knowing any of this. And he'd do this more at night so the neighbours won't be able to know. On the 17th of November 2004, Amanda's mother went on to the Montel Williams show, which was a psychic show in the early 2000s. And she wanted to know if Amanda was alive. The psychic got it so fucking wrong. Reason why I don't like psychics. Now, she told her she would see her daughter again, but she'd only see her daughter again in heaven. She told her she got into a white car with 3 people in it, and that Amanda's jacket was in the water, all this kind of stuff. And that her daughter's dead, and that's it. Which was so wrong, because she fucking wasn't. In late October, Gina's parents went on the Maury Povich show to talk to another psychic who got it fairly accurate with Gina. This psychic said that she was kidnapped by a sexual predator, true. That the predator had spoken to her several times before, which is also true, and that she was still alive, which is also true. The only thing that he got wrong was the description of what the guy looked like, he said that the guy was black and in his late 20s to early 30s, which is not accurate. Because Ariel Castro is in fact like in his like mid to late 40s, and he's Hispanic. So Ariel later said, "What is going on? Hey, Lemold. We're talking about the Cleveland Abductions and all that entire event." Ariel later says that he watched all the girls before taking them. He didn't mean to apparently grab Gina. He wanted a different girl instead, but he got Gina by accident, apparently. On the 22nd, I don't want to be here anymore. Milk, if this is too much for you, do not worry. If you don't want to listen to the rest of it, that is completely fine. We are actually getting fairly to the end of their time in hell. It has a very happy ending. But Milk, if this is too much for you, do not worry about it. It's too much for quite a lot of people, and I completely understand that. So, on the 22nd of April 2005, it was the 2-year anniversary of Amanda's kidnapping, and a candlelit ceremony was in place in the city. It was televised as well. He made all the girls watch it, and he gave them cake. And he now began to start serving the girls cake when it came to the anniversary of their kidnappings. But none of the food that he gave them was fresh. It was all rotten. Exactly, it's so fucking terrifying, right? He would pretend to leave for a day and wait to see if any of them would attempt to move, and if they did, he would beat them and chain them to the basement. He would hold off water and food and the bucket to do their business in. He would force them to play Russian roulette all the time, and he would give them a gun and tell them to pull the trigger, but obviously they were too terrified to do it. Because obviously he was not going to fill it with ammo, so he wasn't going to load the gun. So if they pulled the trigger, then obviously they know what might happen, but it could be loaded, but obviously he's played so many mind games before, they were too terrified. In March 2006, Amanda's mother sadly passed away from heart failure. Michelle broke the news to Amanda after seeing it on the TV. And she basically told Amanda because she wanted Amanda to hear it from her instead of Ariel, which makes 100% sense. Because you don't want to hear it from Ariel, do you? So she tried to break it in the nicest way possible by going up to him and just be like, "I am so sorry." And Amanda's like, "What? What do you mean?" And she's like, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And she's like, "No, you need to tell me what do you mean." And she's like, "Your mother's passed away." And Amanda apparently just broke down, screamed and sobbed. A lot of people think that her mother died from a broken heart after the whole psychic show. Apparently after a few years, like for the time after that, it just completely broke her. Amanda then ends up pregnant, and Ariel is super happy about this. Michelle gets her babies being out of her, but Amanda gets to keep hers because she's his wife. Soon later, he brought around his grandson from his daughter Arlene for like a normal visit. When the boy saw the girls, because obviously Ariel showed the boy the girls, I don't know why. The boy got so upset, and he told his mother when he went home. Arlene and Emily Castro got their boyfriends and husband and went round to Ariel's house to see what the fuck was going on, and they brought their boyfriends as kind of like a backup of protection. They let Ariel know they were coming over. However, he put all 3 girls in the basement, so they couldn't, and he put duct tape over their mouth so they couldn't do anything. Arlene and Emily looked around the house for the girls, and the girls could hear the boyfriends saying, "Open up the basement, I know they're down there." And one of them even said, "I know they're down there, I can hear the music," because he would blast like salsa music, so whenever stuff like this happened. He said that they can't go down there, it's flooded, and there is construction down there, so it's not safe. So they just didn't know what to do. They left. and he forced the girls to have a rotten meal, and then for the next 3 weeks left them chained down there to the pole. Now, he didn't feed them at all for like a couple of weeks, but he'd take them upstairs every every day, one by one, to rape them. He put them into his van and chained them in the summer heat with the windows up, and they passed out multiple times. This year, Michelle got pregnant again, and he took away food and fed her soda. She had sickness and morning sickness, and he then got frustrated and beat her until she miscarried. Now, apparently this one was the worst one, and she goes into more detail about this in her book. So if you want to read that, she's got 2 books, and I'll show you them, to be fair, but I'll show you them on the screen later on. But yeah, she's got 2 books, and she goes into so much more detail on there, so I'd 100% recommend reading it if you want to. The other girls also have books as well. On Christmas Day, Amanda goes into labour. He takes her to the pink room where Michelle and Gina are and puts her on the mattress and demands Michelle helps her deliver the baby. He also says if the baby dies, then so does Michelle. Now, Michelle has no clue how to deliver a baby other than having her own. The baby was blue when it was born, and Michelle was forced to figure this out and on how to save the baby. She does CPR on the newborn baby, and luckily the baby starts to cry. And Amanda names her baby Jocelyn. As Jocelyn became a toddler, Ariel started saying that, so basically Ariel was happy about this child. He would take her out everywhere, would introduce her to places. What's the best form of transport? I don't really know. Car, maybe? I don't know. So whenever his family would be like, whose kid is this? He'd be like, oh, this is my girlfriend's kid. But his daughters have like been in interviews, and they've said that that the baby looks like their siblings, so it can't just be his girlfriend's kid. But this is something that they figured out a bit later on, I guess. So he made Michelle and Gina change their names so that Jocelyn could never find out what was going on, and so Jocelyn could never go up to random strangers and be like, oh, Gina, oh, Michelle, do you have a car? I don't. No, I don't drive. I get the train to work, to be fair. So Michelle picked the name Juju, and Gina was like, okay, I guess I'll be called Chelsea. He took Amanda's chains off so Jocelyn wasn't scared and didn't know what was going on. Now, he never abused Jocelyn, but sometimes if she woke up and had like a nightmare and she'd be screaming and crying, he would tell Amanda to shut her up so that the neighbours wouldn't know. So Amanda would comfort her like a mother does, but Ariel would put his hand over Jocelyn's face and demand that she shut up. Now, weird fact about this, he would have them all sit up with him to watch his favourite TV show. Now, question for the chat, what do you think his favourite TV show was? Like, genuine question. This is like mid to late 2000s. What do you think his favourite TV show was? How would you move a dead body? I don't really know, to be fair. I've never thought about it. SpongeBob? That'd be interesting. So his favourite TV show was Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and he would make them sit up with him to watch it all the time. Apparently he loved Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I just find weird random facts about these people. It's so freaking weird. I know so many weird things that you don't expect to know about these horrific people, and I just find them out, and I'm just like, why? On the 3rd of April at 4 p.m, he made an illegal U-turn with a school bus full of kids. He did this in front of loads of people and was reported immediately. And he was charged with disregarding passenger safety and got 60 days suspension. Neighbours could hear banging from the house, and they saw women they saw Michelle in the window with a baby. They didn't know about him having anyone there or having a baby. The neighbors who saw the girls, saw Michelle and Jocelyn, called the police. The police knocked on the door and they left. They heard screaming coming from Ariel's basement. The police came. No one answered, so the police just left. The neighbors also once saw all 3 girls naked outside wearing dog collars. Police came to the house. They knocked on the door. They left. Sometimes they didn't even go to the house. He forced Michelle to have mustard once. Now this seems like a weird thing to mention, but Michelle is deadly allergic to mustard. Which she mentioned once when he brought her a McDonald's, and she was like, I can't have that if it's got mustard on it. That's just like deadly to me. So at one point he force feeds her to have a hot dog which has mustard on it, and she goes into anaphylactic shock. Gina spends the next 2 weeks nursing her back to health, which she manages to do successfully. But she did say that at one point she is 110% convinced that she passed on for a while, for like a little bit. But she kept reminding Michelle when she was nursing her back to health that she needed to stay. She needed to stay for them. She needed to be there for Joey when she gets out of here. Just reminding her of the things that gave her hope before are still giving her hope now. Michelle got pregnant again, and Ariel shoved her down the stairs and beat her again while she's screaming and crying. He starts playing salsa music. Now, obviously, all these miscarriages, she cannot have another child. She can't have kids anymore. That's done. That is done. Medically, she cannot have a child. Like, her body is so fucked from this, she cannot conceive another child. It will not happen. He has done this to her. When he would basically rape them as well, he would throw money at them and said, basically, if you want anything, you have to pay for it with this money. And obviously, this would only happen. He'd only give them money if, like, he raped them. So they had to go through hell. Naturally, they didn't really want the money. They didn't give a shit because they're like, what are we going to use it for? I don't really care. But basically, he'd do that every single time. And Gina said that when she asked for a newspaper once and he gave her a newspaper. What's the hard part about streaming on a Friday? Not really. There isn't any hard parts about streaming on a Friday. It's actually a lot easier because I've got more of a time frame to stream on a Friday because I don't have work tomorrow, so it makes everything a lot easier. So it's actually easier than, if anything. I just have to do like stuff before I come on the stream, which is annoying. So there was in the newspaper there was a dress that Gina said that she thinks that Michelle would want. That she thinks that she would really, really like, instead of obviously being in bad condition clothes. And she said to Ariel, with the money that you give me, that you throw at me for raping me, can you get Michelle this dress? And he does. He buys her the dress out from that money. And apparently, because Gina was like, oh, she'd love this dress. And apparently she just wore it all the freaking time. And she loved it. And it gave her that one bit of joy that she really freaking needed. Now, you want some happy stuff. You want some happiness to this horrific thing. We are now on the 6th of May, Monday, the 6th of May at 4 p.m. 2013. The day of freedom. That should give some happiness to everyone. It's the day of freedom. It's the day they get out. So Jocelyn is running up the stairs, basically shouting, Daddy's not here. Daddy's gone. Daddy's gone to Grandma's. Daddy's car's not here. And she goes into Amanda's room and said, he told me to stay here. Amanda sat there for a while thinking, do I go and look? Do I risk it? Because this has happened before. Like, he told her that he's left, but he's not left. He does this. Do I risk it? So Amanda, after a while, Amanda looked outside. She poked her head out, looked outside so she can see outside, and saw that the car was really gone. He was gone. And her bedroom door was unlocked because Jocelyn had managed to get in there. So she goes downstairs and sees that the front door isn't locked. So she takes a breath, opens it, and there's one more panel door that's locked with a chain in front of her. Now she sees someone on their porch with their neighbors directly across the street. So she goes for it. She starts pounding on the door. She's screaming that she's Amanda Berry. She's Amanda Berry. I've been here for 10 years. Do you have an Insta account? Yeah, it should all be linked down below. She starts screaming, I'm Amanda Berry. I'm Amanda Berry. And these people sprint over to see what the fuck's going on. She's waving her hand out the door that she can manage to get open. So neighbors come over and they try to get her to break the glass. She can't break the glass. And then another neighbor, you might recognize this name because if you are you M or F? MF. MF. Hi, thanks for that. Anyway, so what do you mean, how? So confused. If you're gonna be rude, please just get lost. So you might recognize this next name because it went viral. This man went viral because of all of this. Are you for real? What do you mean, am I for real? Bye, dick. Thanks, I don't feel insecure as hell right now. 100% do not feel insecure at all. Anyway, more important matters that he's just rudely dragged us away from by fucking insulting me. You might recognize the name Charles Ramsey. Now, if you are not aware, a very viral video went around about this man when he was interviewed by a local news team. If you don't recognize him, you might recognize the line that he said, I knew something was wrong when a pretty white girl ran into a black man's arms. Something is wrong here, dead giveaway. It went viral because it eventually became a remixed song like the internet does. If you want to know what that song is, just Google Charles Ramsey. It will pop up on YouTube easily. So Charles Ramsey comes over and tells her to break the bottom panel out, and she manages to have like a little bit of an opening, and she manages to crawl out, and she grabs Jocelyn and brings her out with her. So she runs across the street with the neighbours and rings 911. And now she's on the phone to 911. The dispatcher's just being like, she's straight away down the phone, help me, I'm Amanda Berry. And they're like, do you need police, fire, ambulance? Now, I've not even got this shit written down. I recognise this off by heart. They're like, do you need police, fire, ambulance? And she's like, I need police. And she's like, okay, what's going on there? And she's like, I've been kidnapped. I've been missing for 10 years, but I'm here. I'm free now. And they're like, who's the guy? Who's the guy that's been keeping you captive? And they're like, oh, his name's Ariel Castro. And she's like, is he white, black, or Hispanic? And she's like, he's Hispanic. She's like, well, where is he? Where is he? She's like, I don't know. That's how I've managed to get away. I don't know where he is right now. I've managed to get away. And they're just like, okay, we're sending officers. They'll get there when they get there. And she's just like, no, they need to arrive here now before he comes back. Because she's fucking terrified. The neighbors are there, but the neighbors are also scared because they're hearing all this shit. And the neighbors are like, what about if he kills us too? And they're terrified, and she's like, I need the police now. And the dispatcher's like, right, they're on their way, they're coming. She's like, okay, they're gonna be there any minute now. And obviously, and she's like, okay, bye, and hangs up the phone. She's with the neighbors take her inside. At the same time, Charles Ramsey's on the phone to a dispatcher. Now, if you want a bit of laughter for this, you need to hear what this man's 911 call about this situation is. You've just heard Amanda Berry, which is obviously naturally panicked. Charles Ramsey doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And this is an exact quote of what he says to the police. Okay. He says, yo, check this out. I just came from McDonald's, right? I'm on my porch eating my food, right? This broad is trying to break out of this house, right? This chick is saying he kidnapped me and my daughter, bro. My name is Linda Berry or some shit. I don't know this shit, bro. I've just moved here. She needs everything, bro. She just escaped. It's just the, yo, check this out. As soon as he gets on the line with the dispatcher, it's just fucking amazing. At 5:44 p.m., so this is like a whole almost 2 hours later, the police are with Amanda, and they ask her, are there any more people in the house? And they're like, is there anyone keeping you hostage that is still in the house? And she's like thinking about Gina and Michelle. So they're like, yeah, there's 2 girls in the house. And they're like, what do you mean, what, 2 girls in the house? So they go inside. Michelle and Gina can hear everything, but they're staying put. Like, Michelle's telling Gina, go hide. Go hide just cover up. Just cover up. I'll take care of this. And as she has been doing. And they think that it's a hoax. But they hear someone being like, it's the police. And Gina's like, they're saying that they're the police. And Michelle's like, anyone can say that they're the police. Michelle's like, yeah, you got a point. But as soon as Michelle sees the female police officer, she jumps into her arms and does not let her go. Gina then comes out of a hiding spot and starts fucking sobbing. They put blankets and coats all over the girl, or the police officers put the jackets over the girls. And ambulances are turning up, the entire place is sectioned off, and they take the girls straight to the hospital. The girls are out of there. At this point, they're trying to find Ariel Castro and where the fuck he is. Now, they find him at a McDonald's, of course, with his brother, with his 2 brothers. They arrest all 3 on the spot. Now, the 2 brothers eventually get let go because they didn't know what the fuck was going on. They're just like, what were you saying my brother's been doing fucking what now? They're shocked. They don't know what the fuck's going on. And they arrest Ariel Castro instantly. The girls taken to the hospital. They are getting all these scans. They're getting all these tests done. See, obviously they've been gone for fucking 10 years. There's got to be something wrong with them. Obviously they are quite sick. They keep an eye on Jocelyn. Amanda's refusing to leave Jocelyn. The girls are refusing to leave each other. Like, one of the nurses is noted on saying, like, she was on a lunch and the girls came through and she'd been obsessed with this case for the past 10 years. And she finds out that they're in the hospital and they've been saved. She drops her lunch. Lunch don't matter. I'm on this. Goes to the girls, starts comforting the girls. And she always said that whenever the girls were away from each other, they would find each other and they just had to be together. They always had to be together. They were in the hospital for about a week. And Gina went home to her parents. Amanda went home to her parents and her sister and her family. Michelle goes with Gina. She doesn't want anything to do with her parents. Her parents are like, oh my god, we've got our daughter back. She doesn't give 2 shits. She doesn't want you. Michelle goes with Gina and stays with Gina and her family. Ariel Castro has been charged with over 900 crimes. This includes kidnapping, pedophilia, rape, sexual assault, child endangerment, and murder. The murder is for obviously the forcing a termination of a pregnancy, for all the miscarriages that he basically forced Michelle and Gina to have. Because obviously he did the same to Gina as well. He is put in prison for life and the death penalty is considered. Now, a month later, he is found hanged in his prison cell by his bed sheets with his pants around his ankles, which is fucking gross. We also need to point out that Michelle and Gina didn't go to the trial. No, sorry, Amanda and Gina didn't go to his trial when he was getting actually sentenced. Michelle went to the trial. Michelle is a badass. She went to the trial and looked at this fucker and read out every fucking thing that he did, that he did to her. She read everything out to his face, and he got sentenced, and now he's fucking dead. That woman deserves every fucking medal on the planet for that shit. One thing that we're gonna do now is talk about what the girls have been doing since. It's been 8 years since all of this happened. Has it been 8 years? It's been 8 years since all of this happened. Michelle has since changed her name. I'm not going to disclose what her name is. She is public, but she needs to live a life, dude. Michelle, she changed her name. She's written 2 books, which are incredible. There's a movie about the entire situation, called the Cleveland Abductions. She got married. It always brings me really happy tingles and really happy tears when I say Michelle is married. She's met someone. He is absolutely, from what I see, absolutely lovely. He treats her right. They got married on the anniversary of the anniversary of when she escaped. She wanted this to be such a happy time. So they replace horrific memories with their wedding day, which is amazing. Amanda and Gina have written a New York Times bestseller, and they are all 3 women are advocating to they are massive activists, and they help people who have been through this situation before. And yeah, they help them go through this situation. They talk with a lot of young people. They help so many people with charity stuff like that. Amanda works in television. Gina works with children. They do all they can to try and help people who have been through horrific abuse just like this. Jocelyn is doing wonderful, by the way. Jocelyn is now a teenager. So, according to Amanda, she's going through the old teenager traits. She is starting to understand what was happening, but not to the point where it's traumatizing for her, but she does understand to an extent. With Michelle and Joey, first thing that Michelle wanted to know when she was in the hospital is, Joey, what's happened with Joey? Is Joey okay? Because she was constantly worried. Last time she saw Joey, he was getting tossed around different foster homes and stuff for different foster families. So naturally, she was just constantly worried about him. They find Joey. Joey at that time when she gets out is 13, 14 years old. And he had been adopted by his foster family. And he'd had an amazing life so far. Now, she obviously wanted to try and see Joey. She wanted to meet him again. So they got in touch. Social services got in touch with the family. Now, the family said no. Now, before you come for the family only said no because they're like, he's 13, 14. We don't want this to mess with his development. Like, he won't really remember you too much. For now, we don't want to disrupt anything with him. Especially to what's happened to you so far. We want him to be a bit older so he can understand a bit more, and also so he can make this decision for himself, which makes so much sense. Like, we are his family, we are his parents. We want to make sure that he has this choice and he chooses to do whatever for himself, which makes so much sense. And she understands this. She's like, that, she writes them a letter. She's like, I completely understand. No issues here. That is completely understandable. Thank you so much for giving him an amazing life. Thank you so much for taking care of him. Thank you so much for being his parents. You are his parents. Thank you so much for everything that you've ever done for him. She was so fucking lovely about this. And the one thing she asked, could I have a few pictures of him? Like, from when he was a baby, when he was a toddler, when he was going to school, from now. Just to see his progression while I obviously was in hell. And they were like, yeah, we'll send you a few pictures. So they sent her pictures from him growing up. Right now, there is no updates on this. We don't know if she has met him. He is 22 years old, so this is a possibility at some point. But you never know. They could meet at some point, but for now, we don't know 100% if they have. Also, Michelle and her husband, they rescue animals a lot, including puppies. They rescue a lot of animals and puppies. Michelle is a psychic as well now. She runs a business. If you are into that, go check it out. You know my opinions on the whole psychic things, but each to their own. Go check that out if you want. It is pretty much, you just Google her name. It comes instantly straight up. But yeah, that is the Cleveland Abductions. All 3 women are thriving now. They're doing amazing. They are getting obviously therapy and doing a lot freaking better. To say the very, very least. I'm gonna turn this on. It's freaking dark in here, dude. But yeah, now that was the Cleveland Abductions, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it despite how horrifically dark it was. Because it obviously was very, very dark to talk about. If you like True Crime Fridays, you can drop a follow. You can do whatever. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But yeah, we're going to carry on with the stream, obviously. Why would we not? We're going to chill for a bit. We might play some games. We don't know. How did you guys find that? For those who managed to stick around for it, how did you guys find it? Really enjoyed that. It was mental. Telling me. Yeah, if you want a laugh, go just look at Charles Ramsey. He completely fully says that Charles Ramsey completely says that he's not a hero, even though he basically got her out of that freaking hellhole. He says he's not a hero. He doesn't want to be called a hero. But he got like there's like an interview somewhere, TV interview, where he gets interviewed by Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg's just like, dude, you're a fucking hero. It is mental. But that was the Cleveland Abductions. We're gonna change the title now to Happy Friday Vibes, because, dude, we need some happiness from that. Baker drink a whole gallon of water now. After all that of water now from doing all that talking. I've got like so many drinks around me right now. Don't worry, I've been staying hydrated.